As the NCAA Swimming and Diving season begins, it's time for SwimSwam's Power Rankings, where we ask 7 of our writers to rank the NCAA teams based on how they think they're going to fare at the end of the year at the national championships. Keep in mind that these are preseason rankings, and as such are not going to take into account any major dual meet performances. You can expect future rankings to update to include those results, however. But that's enough talk. Let's see how SwimSwam's writers ranked the top 10 NCAA teams for the 2023-2024 season, starting off with the women. Coming in at number 10 is the Stanford Cardinal. This may be surprising given that Stanford is coming off of a 3rd place finish at last year's NCAAs, but Stanford is coming back after suffering some pretty heavy losses, such as Tori Husk, Claire Curzon, and Taylor Ruck, but despite that, they should still retain enough firepower to remain in the top 10. Next up at number 9 is University of California Golden Bears. The Bears still have a lot of the major pieces from their 11th place performance last year, and that sets them up to shoot ahead of any teams that lose more than them. In number 8, we have the University of Indiana Hoosiers. While the Hoosiers do lose some high scores, they still retain their 2 highest point earners. The biggest boon for Indiana over last year is their return of diver Taryn Gillian, who took the last NCAA season off. The number 7 Tennessee Volunteers only lost 1 point score from last year. In addition to that, their freshman class is very strong, headlined by Camille Spink, who wields the best time in the 200 free that is already worthy of scoring at NCAAs. At number 6, we have the biggest jump from last year's placement with the University of Florida Gators, and that shouldn't be a shot given the massive weapons that just entered Gainesville in Izzy Ivy and Bella Sims. Both of these swimmers will not only be able to put up some big points individually, but will also be able to elevate the Gators relays. The number 5 NC State Wolfpack are boosted tremendously by Catherine Burkhoff returning for a 5th year. Miriam Sheehan is also a very strong sprint freestyler joining NC State for her freshman year, which could be a positive impact for Wolfpack relays. In the number 4 slot, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State only graduated 1 NCAA score, and that loss only amounts to 4 points from last year. Meanwhile, 5 seniors from last year return as 5th years entering grad school, which will help give the team very strong leadership as they look to improve on last year's finish. Starting off the top 3, we have the Louisville Cardinals. Gabby Albiero is going to continue to rack up big points and elevate relays. Meanwhile, Christina Regenauer and Abby Hay return to provide even more top-end talent. At number 2, we have the University of Texas Longhorns. Texas had a somewhat lackluster NCAAs last year after a very strong regular season, and they still managed a 2nd place finish. Texas is also bringing in arguably the best freshman recruiting class this season with lots of sprint talent that should help them score big points at the end of the year. And the least surprising pick of the day is the University of Virginia women in the number 1 spot. Virginia remains the team to beat at NCAAs this year. While the loss of a talent like Kate Douglas would hurt any team, Virginia has enough returning firepower along with some 5th years to be the preseason favorites for another national title. Those were the top 10 women's teams, so now let's switch on over to the men's. In the number 10 slot, we have the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia's returning 5th years alongside the individual points Jake McGahee should put up, combined with some potentially impactful freshmen. That's a good enough combination to break into the top 10. At number 9 is Virginia Tech. Last year, Virginia Tech placed 9th, which was the highest finish in program history. Despite that, it seemed that maybe they weren't firing on all cylinders, which makes a repeat 9th place seem about right. Number 8 is the Stanford Cardinal. The success at the end of the year for this team will come down to just how well their loaded freshman class performs in their very first NCAA season. Coming in at number 7, we have the University of Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee's impressive sprint group receives another member with freshman and world junior champion Nikolai Blackman. The question for the Vol success is how well their sprint stars will perform with the absence of former sprint coach Josh Huger. And at number 6, we have the University of Texas Longhorns. Now, I know, placing Texas outside of the top 5 sounds crazy, but Texas is going to be down both foster brothers Casper Cobo and David Johnston this year, which opens up a lot of holes that they will need to fill quickly. Texas's saving grace may be the freshman duo of Nate Germonprez and Will Moglin, as they can help both individually and on relays. Breaking into the top 5, we have the NC State Wolfpack. Last season, NC State was in a very tight battle with Texas, Florida, and Indiana. While NC State loses less than Texas, they may not gain as much firepower as Florida and Indiana, but the next 2 teams aren't entirely safe from a charging Wolfpack. In the number 4 spot, we have the University of Indiana Hoosiers. Not only does Indiana have a massive incoming freshman class, but we'll finally get to see the NCAA debut of Olympic champion Ahmed Hafanawi, who is coming off of very successful World Championships this past summer. At number 3 are the University of Florida Gators. On paper, this Florida team seems like they should be in a battle with Indiana for the 3rd spot at the end of the season. What pulls the Gators ahead is a slightly stronger recruiting class and their absurdly good relays. In the number 2 spot, we have the University of California Golden Bears. I know, having the defending champions at number 2 seems a little nuts, but I feel the need to point out this was a very split decision from our writers, with 3 out of 7 picking Cal for number 1. Cal retains a lot of their points from last year with a talented freshman class joining the roster. It may just come down to how fast Durden can develop that talent to see who wins in March. And of course, that leaves our number 1 pick for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Union Lee broke down the math for this pick very well, so I'm just going to repeat it. Cal topped ASU by 52 points last year. Cal's graduated points add up to 81. ASU's only big loss was worth 30 points last year, pulling the two teams just about even. The wild card that puts the Sun Devils over the top is freshman Ilya Karun, who has already broken a team record and asserted himself as one of the fastest butterflyers this year. If you want to see the full 25-team list, as well as the individual ballots from our 7 writers that made their selections, you can check out the articles over on SwimSwam.com. Otherwise, did you agree with our picks? Did your favorite team get robbed? Let us know down in the comments.